Я предлагаю начинать.
Yeah, let's start.
Some words for my Russian-speaking friends, for our guest. Я Олег Решетников, я основатель CYPRUS IT. И проводим регулярно онлайн-метапы на разные темы, относящиеся к Кипру, переезд, выбор жилья, relocate, immigration и другие вопросы. Сегодня мы начинаем цикл метапов. Надеюсь, этот цикл будет интересный на английском языке. И я даю слово моему партнеру Шону Алимову. Шон, welcome.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sean Alimov, and I would like to welcome you all to the highly anticipated virtual meetup hosted by CYPRUS IT community. Established back in 2017, CYPRUS IT is an active and engaged community of international IT and tech entrepreneurs, investors, executives, and highly skilled experts. Our mission is to enable best practices exchange, cross-industry learning, but most importantly is to facilitate connections that bring positive change to your businesses and the society overall. Our goal is to continuously grow our ecosystem whilst promoting Cyprus as a desired jurisdiction for technology-driven businesses. The topic today is how IT and tech companies can benefit from relocation to Cyprus, and I am delighted to welcome Andreas and Sophocles, who have extensive experience working with tech companies of all sizes. They will provide pragmatic advice for ensuring successful business relocation and creating profitable, bankable infrastructures. Great to have you with us, Andreas and Sophocles. Welcome.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean.
Andreas here, Sophocles is here with me. Thank all the participants for joining us and spending this afternoon with us. We really look forward for the end of this pandemic situation, and we really look forward to meet everybody face to face. Sean, to you.
Yeah, just before we start, a quick housekeeping note. Please keep your mics muted and use the chat box to submit your questions. We will answer as many of them as possible during the Q&A session at the end, or respond to you individually after the meetup. If you are viewing this on demand, we will provide our contact information at the end of the session and in the descriptions, so you can contact us directly. So with that said and done, let's begin. Today, we shall be addressing why Cyprus is an attractive domicile, what type of activities are commonly relocated to Cyprus, what migration solutions are available to entrepreneurs and their employees, and why Cyprus regulatory environment makes financial sense for companies to set up a genuine physical presence here. So as a chosen experts, Andreas and Sophocles, please briefly introduce yourself, your experience and services that you're offering to the companies that are considering relocating and operating in Cyprus.
Thank you, Sean. I don't want to say much about us. I'll just say a few words so we move on to the interesting stuff. We represent AsusPlus. It's a regulated audit and tax consulting firm. We specialize in providing, in general, consulting tax services to IT companies. We can proudly say that we represent a big number of clients in the industry, from small startups to already highly recognized and established clients in the IT industry. We consider ourselves as a one-stop shop for IT companies, for all the services required in the industry, including taxation, immigration, legal support, corporate services, and also banking. That's all. I think let's move on to the interesting stuff.
Yeah, let's get to the juicy stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Look, Andreas, with so many jurisdictions and destinations out there, why IT companies should relocate to Cyprus, huh?
The answer is pretty simple, Sean. I will say that It's mainly because of three reasons. The first one is that we have a very favorable tax regime, especially by introducing the IP box, and we will, I assume we will talk about it later on most probably. Second of all is that we have really easy relocation of non-EU personnel. And also a third one that many may sometimes don't consider, but we have really high, we have really good incentives and benefits for the owners of the company, not just the employees, not just the taxation of the company itself, but an owner of an IP company can personally benefit from the incentives offered by the Cyprus tax and Cyprus government, I would say.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this IP box, because some of the key drivers for full corporate relocation or migrating a certain type of the activities has always been cost and tax implications.
Okay.
So can you tell us about the current IP regime and how physically operating from Cyprus can ensure profitability?
Okay, at this stage, maybe, okay, let's go back in time, okay? Let's go back in time. The Cyprus IP box used to be a really, really big box, okay? It could fit inside all kinds of intellectual properties, including brands, trademarks, image rights, even know-how, okay? Mm-hmm. It could fit everything in. So in 2016, the law changed, okay? And new provisions were in place from 1st July 2016, actually, where the IP box became much smaller, okay? And it could fit in, strictly speaking, only two types of intellectual properties, and I will talk about it just in a while. And the new law was redrafted saying that the 80% of qualifying profits derived from a qualifying intangible asset, okay, will be considered as a deductible expense, resulting in a maximum tax effective rate of 2.5%. This is tax terminology. I will say it in simple words, okay? Simple words is that if you have a qualifying intangible asset, a software, then you can really go to as low as 2.5% in terms of corporate tax. I'm saying to as low as 2.5 because a lot of people and a lot of clients don't understand that it's not 2.5. It's somewhere between 2.5 to 12.5. And in order to achieve the 2.5, you need to take some measures. You need to know the laws. You need to get a good advice how to structure your IP and get actually the benefits at the maximum, okay? So the IP box from 2016 onwards changed. At this point, maybe it's a good idea if I can share my screen. If I can,
sure.
Can we share the screen? So I will not talk technical, okay, at all, but it's good if you just see a few points of my screen.
I can see it, yeah.
You can see? Okay. So as I mentioned, the provisions of the law give 80% exception, okay? Now, let's go to what is this asset that is eligible in the new box. Before, it was all kinds of intellectual property. So now the law changed. And actually, it only fits in two types of intellectual property. Patents, as defined by the Cyprus patent law, and the second one is software, computer software. Only these two. So, computer software is what it interests us at the moment. And I believe that the people that are joining us is, they are in the IT business, and we are talking about software, computer software. So we are addressing this IP box now only fits the IT industry, nothing else. Strictly nothing else. So it's a good thing that software development companies, let's call them IT companies for the purposes of this meeting, can take advantage of this law. As you can see from my screen at the bottom, we are saying that the qualifying intangible assets do not include brands, trademarks, image rights, and any other intellectual property rights used to market products and services. So let's take everything out and let's stay with our software development that we are interested at. As we mentioned before, it's really important to understand how the IP box works in terms of how you can achieve the 2.5%, which is fantastic, okay? Imagine like having your company taxed at 2.5%. I mean, and being in European Union, okay? I'm not saying being somewhere, being in European Union. So, as we said, we have the Cyprus government is giving 80%, okay, of the qualifying profits as a deductible expense. What does this mean? It means that if I achieve that all my profits are called qualifying profits, I will be at 2.5%. If my qualifying profits are half of my profit, then I will go somewhere in the middle between 2.5 and 12.5. If my qualifying profits are much higher, then I am moving closer to the 12.5% taxation. So how can I achieve that? In the law, the CYPRUS IP box has a very complicated formula how the qualifying profit is calculated. We will not go into mathematics. We will not go into just reading to you.
Yeah, I agree. I think let's keep it generic for now, because yes, I think we need to have a special session dedicated
Anybody that needs to go into these details, we can have another session or we can contact us directly. So let me tell you in simple words how you achieve the 2.5%, okay? And actually how this formula at the end works. And I will go to a different paragraph for you to see when the time comes. So in order to get the 2.5%, you need to develop the software within the company. There are two options. Either you develop this software within, which means with your own employees. Either you purchase software development services from third parties. That's the only way you can achieve the lowest taxation. If you purchase software development from a related company, then the formula is being distorted, and then your qualifying profits are decreasing. And as a result, you don't get the full benefit of the formula. It's much more complicated than what I say, but this is the main idea. The main idea is that you should develop, and if you're going to buy services, you shouldn't buy from related companies. This is the main idea to achieve the best results. So what if we have to buy a software and we want to get under the IP? Because of course we buy, we develop further. So let me give you a simple example on that. Let's say we buy one software for €1 million. And then I develop further with expenses that can be justified as software development expenses, okay, with my employees, or I purchase the software development services from a third party for another 1 million. So I have 1 million, I bought it, 1 million, I developed it, okay? And let's take the example that I made a profit from royalties, okay, from this software of €5 million. So 1 million I bought, 1 million I developed, I had 5 million profit. Strictly speaking, the formula will give you that half of the profit, €2.5 million, will be taxed at 12.5%, and the other 2.5 will be taxed at 2.5%. So by increasing them and your development costs per year, if it's necessary, of course, then your taxable income, which goes under the low regime, becomes higher. So if I have 2 million development and 1 million purchase, then again, it's changing. It's more favorable. So, and also, as per the Cyprus law, which follows the OECD guidelines, you get the benefit if you develop the software, not if you buy the software, okay? So this is something that we need to have in mind in order for the formula to work. I will go one step back and repeat myself. Sorry for repeating myself, but in order to achieve, you need to, as we said, develop internally with your own employees, or buy the services from a third party. And when I say from your own employees, it can be your employees situated in Cyprus, situated somewhere else, but employees of the Cyprus company. Okay? Buying services from third parties from all over the world. This way, you can benefit the most out of the Cyprus IP box regime.
Okay.
Which, in combination with other laws, because you cannot take one law and say this is attractive, come. No, with combination with other laws together, it becomes quite attractive. And following the OECD, and after 2016, we have to say that Cyprus offers the maximum protection and certainty for all IP owners, software development owners, or due to the ratification of all major IP treaties and protocols. In addition to this asset protection, Cyprus has a wide network of double tax treaties, which will considerably reduce foreign withholding tax on the royalty income. It's been in line with the provisions of OECD and really maintains its status as one of the best and most favorable IP regimes of intangible assets.
Well, look, I think for people that actually the entrepreneurs and senior executives, in addition to this corporate taxation incentives that you're currently describing, which I think we should have a separate session on it, because I know we can talk for hours on this. But what are the privileges being offered to the tech and IT entrepreneurs and professionals here in Cyprus now?
Forgot to state something important, Sean.
Sure.
Actually, in August 2018, the Cyprus, 2020, the Cyprus government made an amendment to the law, and actually these two small amendments are quite increase the attractiveness of the scheme. It abolished totally the taxation in case of sale of the intellectual property. Before the August 2020, you could get the 80% discount, okay? You could, there's some balancing statement, balancing addition, this taxation terminology, which when you sell it, there was some tax on the profit. Now from 2020 August, it is totally abolished.
So if they've abolished it,
totally no taxation when you sell the software.
But as a consequence, if there are any losses, it's not tax allowable. Then I take it.
Yes, but if you the losses, you use them against your royalty income. I mean, during the process.
Gotcha.
Okay. Okay. No. Yes. If you sell it, it depends what you want to do with the company. The losses brought forward, you can utilize them against future and against future profit. Okay. Now the expenses, you are right. When you sell it, okay, the losses. Even before the amendment in August, you could only carry forward the 20%, because if you took the 2.5%, it means 80% allowable expense, then you could carry onward only the 20%, okay? So the carrying forward taxes up to that point were not 100%, were the 20%. of the total losses, allowable losses you are allowed to carry forward. Okay. Now, the second amendment was actually that the company had the option to claim capital allowances, let's call it depreciation, the way it fits the company. So for example, if you start and you have capital allowances as an allowable expense for tax purposes, and this year you have a loss, you have the chance not to claim it and keep it for next year, which you have a profit. So it allows the company to choose which year to claim its capital allowances, which is again will result in lower taxation for the corporation. These were the two main amendments that happened in August 2020.
So they're trying to make it even more attractive, this IP regime.
They should make it more attractive. They should make it. The benefits are a lot for Cyprus, for the economy of Cyprus. It's not just taxation. Taxation is it's something else. When you relocate people, when companies operate, they also have other expenses here. You know, the living expenses of the corporation, or of the employees of the corporation, the offices, the VAT they paid. So the government wins. So they need to see the winning part and the end result, and not just let's take the taxes. No, it's not taxes. There are other ways to get benefit to create a more stable economy. This will enhance economy. We are in COVID. We're in COVID situation, and the whole world is suffering. So they need to see and find ways to make it more attractive. Yes.
So okay, let's talk about other privileges. So I'm an entrepreneur, or I've got this great idea. Apart from the corporate taxation incentives, what else is being offered to me as an entrepreneur?
Okay, I will move on to another topic then, to the individual level, not the corporation. Let's leave the IP box out of the scheme now. Let's go to the individual. Now, I will share. I will share this on my screen. So let's have it. We have an individual here, and I have this. I love this scheme. I love this picture actually. It says 0 dividend and 0 interest. Okay. So imagine having an IT company which successfully was taxed under 2.5%, and the owner gets his dividend at 0%. So it means from his whole operation, from corporate to individual, he pays or she pays only 2.5%, which is out of this world. Me as a Cypriot, I cannot take this advantage, unfortunately, but this was given to non-domicile tax residents. Okay, so I will explain how this. A lot of people know it. It's a very successful scheme. Cyprus introduced this in 2015 for the first time, and it actually says that if you come and become a tax resident, okay, and you are a non-domicile, which to be considered a non-domicile, the definition of the law says that at the time of your birth, your father was not a Cypriot domicile. That is why I cannot get the benefit, because when I was born, my father was a Cypriot domicile. So if your father was not a Cypriot domicile, you can get the status of the non-domicile person. Okay, so let's say you have the status of the non-domicile person. How you get advantage of these taxation rules? So, in order to become a tax resident, there are two different schemes, and let's call it categories of tax residents. The first one is the is a simple one where the tax resident stays and can prove that he was in the Republic of Cyprus for 183 days. This was always the law about being a tax resident of Cyprus. You don't have to be 183 days, I mean, like one time, so within the year. So a lot of non-domicile entrepreneurs came to Cyprus with this scheme. So actually it became very attractive because you get your dividends totally tax-free and your passive interest. So the 183 was a bit difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs to achieve. So in 2017, the Cyprus government also introduced another scheme, how to become a tax resident. And this is the 60-day rule. So the 60-day rule came and said, I can also consider you as a tax resident of my country, Cyprus, if you stay 60 days, but there are another 4 conditions you need to meet in order to be considered tax resident and give you this beautiful tax-free on your dividends. So in order to be considered as a tax resident with the 60 days, of course, you should say 60 days, then you should have a home, you should be employed in Cyprus, or be a director, okay, of a Cyprus resident company. You should have a home in Cyprus, not necessarily buy, but you can rent. And the other, and the last one is that you should not be 183 days in another country and not be considered a tax resident of another country. So this became actually the non-domicile concept after the introduction of the 60 days rule became very, very popular and very, very successful. So combining, since we're talking about tech and IT companies, combining the two, and actually we have a lot of clients that combined it. They really did combine it. They came only for the IP, and then we introduced this to them, and then they said, yes, but I'm going to leave. And then finally, not only they became tax residents, they live here with their families, okay? It's important. They travel, they do the business, they live here. It's a lot of clients say, thank you for introducing these schemes to us. So combining the IP box and the non-dom, for those who can do the non-dom, because the IP box, I consider it relevantly not so difficult for IP companies to come here, operate from here, relocate some of key personnel here, buy services from abroad, and be eligible at the low rates of taxation. For the individual shareholder, it's maybe not that easy because it's a matter of relocating for a number of days in Cyprus, but a lot of people can do it. And those who do it can benefit from not only dividends from Cyprus company, but also worldwide dividends. All your dividends from all over the world will be taxed at 0. So in combination, I would say it's a fantastic combination of incentives to be given.
Well, listen, let's bring Sophocles in the picture. He's getting a bit, you know, all on his own. I got a question for you. Let's talk about the challenges connected to the actual relocation and employees migration matters.
Sure.
Are there any schemes we should be aware of?
Sure, Son. The government of Cyprus has in place 2-3 schemes that they are in place to help companies in order to employ non-EU nationals. We are talking about non-EU national because obviously companies who are in Cyprus, they can employ local Cypriots and EU people. So the difficulty is when it comes to non-EU nationals. The most common scheme for companies to employ non-EU national is under the International Company Scheme, which has also been enhanced since the last 2-3 months, actually in October 2020, by adding a new category called the sole specialist. I'm going to analyze a bit the scheme briefly, just to give an idea to our audience. And of course, there are some other schemes, such as the startup visa for startup companies or entrepreneurs, which can address any questions our audience has later on. So in order for the companies of foreign interest to employ a non-EU country nationals in Cyprus, the majority of the company shares should belong to a non-EU shareholder. This is number one criteria. Second criteria is that there should be a foreign direct investment of capital amounting to at least 200,000 euros into the company. And this amount should be remitted to Cyprus. And these amounts are, I want to clarify that these amounts are companies' funds and can be used by the company's operational. It is not a government tax or something. It's just the government needs to show some transfer of these 200,000 in the company's bank account. And the third condition is that the company should operate from independent offices, premises, or except in case of business cohabitation. This should be real business. It should substantiate that the company has a form of substance and not just a registered office to operate its activities. Under this scheme,
do they require like certain amount of employees has to be employed, or is there a criteria?
Yes, yes, on your right, we have different staff categories that we can use for the scheme. We have the directors, which are obviously the most high-paid employees. The minimum monthly salary for the category of directors is, as you can see on the screen, it's 4,000 euros. And includes in this category directors or partners, registered in the registrar of companies, general managers, and departmental managers. And then we have the middle management executives, where the salary should be above 2,000 euros per month and includes upper middle management personnel and other administrative, secretarial, or technical staff. As I mentioned before, the migration department has introduced a new category they call specialist, where in this category, companies are eligible to employ non-EU national from 26 different professions with skills mostly related to the IT and tech industry. This is very important for our community. So the government gave a very big incentive and gave the tools of companies interested to relocate a lot of employees to Cyprus to use this category, the so-called specialists. Again, the minimum salary for such category is monthly salary of 2,000 euros. Of course, we need to stress out that family members are eligible to join the member of their family who is employed under such companies. So we have seen family reunification, and obviously the employee can bring his family to live in Cyprus with this permit. And there is another category, the support staff, that the the company who is registered can, in line, if doesn't have in place Cypriot or European citizens that can be employed as support staff, it can apply to labor office for such employees, which are, let's say, less skilled than the previous categories we described before. And under the new category introduced, a company can employ up to 5 directors, up to 10 middle management executives and other key personnel, and the category of specialists, it correlates directly to the annual turnover of the company. So it means that a company of up to 1 million euros turnover, it can employ up to 5 specialists. A company between 1 million and 3 million of annual turnover, it can employ 20 people. 5 to 10 is 30 people. 10 to 20 million is 50 employees. 20 to 30 million euros of turnover is 100 employees. And for companies that they have annual turnover of more than 30 million, they can employ up to 200 specialists. So with this category, we can apply and employ big number of non-EU nationals finally to Cyprus.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, we're already getting some interesting questions from Anastasia and Dmitry. We're certainly going to have to address them. But just talking about family members, one of the questions that has been submitted before is the government planning to have some kind of a tax exemption policy on working spouses' net employment income if the spouse doesn't work? Because majority of them that come here, their wives, for example, they cannot work.
As soon as you know, we have special incentives for the employees as such, like the 50% exemption for employees earning more than 100,000 euros. For employees earning less than 100 euros per year, we have the 20% exemption with a maximum of 8,500 euros of tax allowance. But honestly, I'm not aware of any incentive for the spouse of not working. I'm not aware of this, any incentives to be granted in this category. Actually, the 20% exemption has been recently renewed. It was supposed to expire. Last year was 2020, and recently the parliament has extended this for another 10 years, up to 2030. So a person can benefit for the 20% exception for a maximum of 5 years, with the last year of benefiting from this scheme up to 2030. And coming back to the 50% exemption for employees earning more than 100,000 euros, the period of exemption is 10 years for them.
So the incentive is given to the employee?
To the employee, not to the spouse not working.
The incentive is given to the employee as a tax allowance.
Well, listen, we actually are developing a very close relationship now with the governmental levels, more specifically with the Deputy Ministry of Innovation, to also assist them with a mandate to attract international high growth IT and tech companies, and also utilize maybe our members of our CYPRUS IT community to develop a truly sustainable innovation and entrepreneurship landscape, where the experts with the international expertise could perhaps share their knowledge and develop a local talent pool. And the minister himself, Mr. Kokinos, has sent the following statements, and this is for everybody who's joined our meetup today, is Cyprus is intensively working across all pillars, work permits, taxation framework, talent management, etc., to further enhancement of our attractiveness posture. And we are at everybody's disposal of every interested party to listen the needs and explore ways of addressing them. So they are pretty much, you know, opening the doors for any kind of a suggestions. However, you and Andreas, you work on the ground and you deal with the IT and tech companies on a daily basis. What do you think the key policies or amendments should be introduced to support this this mission of positioning Cyprus as a technology hub?
Sean, I would love to see that, to see Cyprus as a technology hub. I would say that on the level of the company, okay, on the level of the company, the IP box is the most attractive at the moment, okay? So let's keep the company out because I consider that's very, very advantageous. So the government should focus on the incentives given to the employees. Okay, the companies want to come. We know it. The difficulty is some of employees, they want to relocate them. They have their families. They have these, so they can attract them with different ways. Create IT spaces, offices, give incentives, lower taxation, lower the taxation even more for relocation. Let's not forget that Cyprus is a very small island, okay? We have to realize what is Cyprus, small island. So we need to find attractive ways to enhance our economy. And what's the future? The future is software development. We all know it. So we're a small island. We need ways to attract these businesses. I'm talking as a Cypriot now, okay? I'm talking as a Cypriot. Sure. We really welcome all the software development companies to come here and develop these innovative softwares that they do. They provide innovation, which is extremely, I mean, important to society, to everything. So yes, what the government should do should give more incentive. It's clear. Why? Because it's not all about taxes. When we have relocation, the government will win. Why? If he gets a salary, from the salary, we have some social, he lives in Cyprus, the relocation, what it means, he comes here and lives. So he spends here. So he pays VAT here. So they go to, the employees go to restaurants, they eat, they have cars. So they move the economy. And this is something very important.
Mm-hmm.
For
lots of social and economic benefits.
Economy like Cyprus, for a small economy like Cyprus. Yes, what is IP? It's innovation. It's innovation.
Listen, I think you brought a very...
Innovation is welcome. And they should welcome it even more. It's not just, no, we should do more. Government should do more. I have followed the IP box for many years. And I have seen the giants in the industry relocating. I have seen the smaller companies starting from here and growing, and they are happy. We are happy that they are here. We welcome, and the government should welcome it more. And they should not just say, we will. They should take actions now. And it's the right time to do it, if you ask me. After the failure of the Cyprus citizenship program, Cyprus investment program, we have some failure there. Let's keep it out of the equation. So let's focus, where is the next attractive scheme or industry, or call it whatever you want, that can attract the right and the correct businesses here to boost the economy. I will answer you straightforward. The IT software development businesses.
Yeah. Look, I'm with you 100%. And just on a point of giving incentive to the employees, I think Anastasia is asking a very a relevant question here. Can you deduct the living expenses of the employees?
No, the living expenses are not a deductible expense.
Okay, so, what?
You mean as a private employee?
Private or for the employee? No.
I'm just reading out the question from Anastasia. I understand. I would imagine Anastasia means, maybe Anastasia, you can clarify.
Yes,
you mean
if a person is a private employee, what it can be deducted is the a provident fund, some donations to approved charity organizations, some subscriptions, some private life insurance, but not living expenses. But don't forget that there is a tax-free threshold in Cyprus, a very big one, of 19,500 euros. So you get taxed after the tax-free threshold.
So the first 19,500 are not the taxable income for the employees.
Okay. All the attendees, we will provide our contact information. If you want to reach out to me directly, or if you want to reach out directly to Sophocles and Andreas with your question, feel free to do so. Dimitri is asking a question. What about extra 2.65 GHS tax?
Yes, this is a national health insurance. Unfortunately, this is the newly taxed, let's say, newly contribution in order to be a national health insurance free of charge for all the people who live in Cyprus,
Is it available to everyone that makes a contribution?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course, 100%, of course. So by paying a fee on your salary, the employee is eligible to free health care in Cyprus.
I don't know if you're watching the questions, guys, but Nick is asking. Nick is asking another question. Is it possible to have non-EU employees without the relocation working overseas with the salaries less than required for the specialist category? And is it possible to use the IP box regime with such employees?
Okay, the question, the first one.
Let's answer these two first. Huh?
Yeah. Hi, Nick. Is it possible to have non-EU employees without the relocation working? So we have the Cyprus company and the employees work from abroad. The answer is yes, and we are eligible also for the IP box. The only thing that this company should be aware of is that there is a risk that the other government, let's take, for example, you have employees on your payroll in Cyprus company, but they're sitting in Russia. And I'm talking about having the majority, having a lot of employees like this and having less in Cyprus. In such a case, Cyprus will not interfere, and yes, you will be eligible, but there is a risk that Russia will consider that the company has a permanent establishment in Russia. And then things become complicated.
And can claim even that the software
belongs.
It belongs and it has been developed in the Russian Federation instead of belonging to the Cyprus company.
I would advise, if there is such key employees that don't want to relocate, for example, and the company is here, this employee can become a third-party service provider.
Freelancer.
So he can become a freelancer, and we buy the service. Cyprus company buys the service from him, and then, and actually, this is totally eligible under the IP2. I'm seeing the questions.
Listen, yes, I think let's be fair to Nick, because he's asked another question. Is it possible to use the IP box without the employees at all?
The answer to this question, Nick, is yes. You can buy services from freelancers all over the world and still be eligible under the IP box. Our advice and our from our experience is that if you only buy from third parties and you have no employees here, then it will not be considered as very positive in the eyes of the tax authorities. But the answer is yes, you are eligible. Our advice, have one or two here, more, not more. To enhance your substance inside.
Everything depends on how big is the company.
Yes,
if it's a startup company, everything needs to be assessed on a case by case. Mm-hmm. But we have received tax rulings for our clients, which has confirmed that a company which outsources all the development without having an employee in its payroll, that is subject to IP box regime. So we have a tax ruling confirming this question.
So this is a carry on with Nick, huh?
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick, for active participation. You said that there are options for relocating the owners of the IP box companies. Should you be the director at that point?
Για να κάνουμε το relocation, εμείς που θέλουμε να γίνει tax resident, δεν μπορεί να γίνει. So actually, yes, the owner can not just be director, he can even be just an employee of the company, a manager, if he doesn't want to be a director of the company for relocation purposes.
But it's not a must. The owner can be an owner and he can benefit from receiving dividends from the IP company. So it's up to the owner himself to decide if he wants to also act as a director. However, we need to take into consideration the 60 days rule, that one of the conditions, if you're going to be a tax resident under the 60 days rule, you need to be either an employee of a Cyprus company or you need to be a director of a Cyprus company.
Mm-hmm. Also, an owner that may consider also, there are also other migration schemes like the PR that he can apply for, and not being a director, he can only be a shareholder and get advantage of the non-domicile concept. Yeah, Nick got the answer, like a contractor, I can see that.
Yeah. Look, Alexander is asking a good question, actually. Huh? I had something similar that been asked from me recently, not related to the book publishing. Can you please tell me if it is possible to use IP box regime for other types of intellectual property business like book publishing?
No, as I mentioned earlier in our presentation, which I can share to you, Sean and Oleg, and you can share to all participants, and they can come back with any questions. This kind of IPs were feeding the IP box before 16. After 2016, only software development. So only tech companies. Unfortunately, book publishing is not eligible under the IP box.
But movie production is, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken.
No, it should be a software. No, it's a different service. A software involves, as I mentioned, creativity. A software performs a job by itself without the need of interference by a human being. All applications, we all know what it's a software in the computer. I mean, like IT language. It should be a computer software performing a job.
Listen, I want to come back to Anastasia's question was earlier. So when she talked about deducting living expenses, she's referring to rent, for example. Rent, if your employees and you paying the rent for them, can that not be considered as an expense to the company?
Sean, can you please repeat? I couldn't hear you very well.
Anastasia asked earlier, do you remember the questions about living expenses? You said they're not deductible. What about if living expenses she's referring to is renting an apartment?
No, it's still living expenses. It's personal expenses.
This is personal expenses.
No, they're not.
This is personal.
No.
Okay.
We are talking, just to clarify, that an employee of a private Cyprus company receives a salary, a monthly salary, and out of his salary pays his or her rent. That's personal expenses and cannot be deducted from that taxpayer personal income tax return.
There's another question. Why an owner might not want to be a director?
This is a commercial. This is a commercial. This is a commercial decision. Each one has its own risk appetite and each preference.
Look, can I ask you a question? This is personally that from me. In your experience, what type of activities are commonly relocated to Cyprus from IT and tech companies? Is it something to do with the IP holding companies to make them operational? Is it like headquarters, head offices? Is it a combination of both? What do you see? What's the most common pattern?
A combination of both. It's a combination of both. For example, now we had a case where a client is starting to develop a game on application on mobile application, you know.
Game development, say.
He is acting with another two friends, okay? Totally startup. So they started the right way, like they incorporated the company, slowly moving ahead to get the first employee. So we have all kinds of relocations in the software business, from the smallest and up to wargaming, up to Skyeng, which actually they are relocating more and more people. Why? When you start growing as a company, you need to really protect your tax residency, the tax residency of the company. Tax residency of the company, it is where the substance is, where the decisions are taken. So directors are here in Cyprus. We have offices here in Cyprus, headquarters here in Cyprus, employees here in Cyprus, a mixture of, so as Sophocles said, it depends on the size. You can find a startup without employees, just buying services slowly. But once this company starts generating income, it is advisable, and we will advise the client to get his office here, a couple of employees here, because then your substance is low, it's not strong, it's weak. And when your substance is weak, the other country, not Cyprus will not attack the Cyprus company and say, I don't want your taxes, I don't want your employees. Of course, it wants. But you need to protect the company from the other country that will attack. So you need to make sure that the tax residency of the company is secured. As you grow, as your revenue grows, your substance in Cyprus should grow. It's going together, parallel. One goes up, you need to increase your substance. Coming back to your questions, Sean, software development companies should relocate. It doesn't matter if they relocate headquarters or something. They should relocate at least the management, the decision-making first to get the tax residency. Have the directors here. I cannot have a company in Cyprus and having the directors sitting in Russia and taking decisions in Russia, not coming at all in Cyprus. I will fail. I will fail.
I think it all comes down to very strategic early planning, isn't it? Understanding all these commercial objectives of the company, because it depends what kind of a sector they're in.
You're absolutely right.
And the proof is always in the execution. So I guess that's why they need guys like you that can assist them with that, huh?
Anastasia is asking another question. What are the risks for directors? Okay, so there is, strictly speaking, no risk for the directors as long as he doesn't act against the company and unlawfully and etc. But just because I understood that there was a question about the owner being the director, I would like to add that if there is mismanagement by the director, somebody can sue the company, then the director is liable. The director is always liable, not the shareholder.
This is very important.
Very important. Shareholder is not liable for the debts of the company, for the mismanagement of the company. The one who is responsible is the director.
So if a company owes taxes to the tax department, the liable person is the director of the company and not the shareholder and not the owner.
This is very important under our law, common law.
I think we've seen it even on the global level with people getting to the highest possible position that declared bankruptcies for a number of companies, but never got affected themselves.
The shareholder, strictly speaking, is the owner who is enjoying the fruits of his investment, okay? So if the company does well, he gets his dividend, okay? Now, who is running the company? Strictly speaking, it is run under the law, it's run by the director. So if the director start buying and selling guns or drugs, and that the shareholder doesn't know, who will go to jail? The director. I'm just giving a very, very extreme example.
Well, listen, it seems like we're getting a lot of questions around this IP box regime, and we're going to create a series of meetups, thematic meetups, that are going to go into more of the details. I'm sure our attendees also want to understand all the situation with available visas and so on and so forth. So everyone, please feel free.
Separate meetups only for immigration. Then we can talk all the possibilities of somebody to relocate. I mean, get a working visa. Let's call it a working visa, or even not a working visa, permanent residence. So we can, arrange a special meeting only for immigration. We can arrange another one only for VAT.
IP,
only for personal taxation and all the associated incentives and or brackets of taxation for the individual. We can do that, and we look forward to it.
Yeah, I strongly encourage all the participants to reach out to Oleg or myself with your suggestions, what keeping you awake at night, what sort of areas you want to understand a little bit better, so we can align with your requirements. Thank you very much, Andreas and Sophocles.
You're more than welcome, and thank everybody for spending the afternoon with us.
It's pleasure to participate and help the community growth here in Cyprus.
Absolutely. Oleg, final words?
Большое спасибо всем, что были на нашем метапе. Как Шон сказал, что это у нас будет целый цикл метапов. Thank you, Sophocles, thank you, Andreas, thank you, Sean. Очень приятно, было интересно. Ребята, кто хочет, можете писать вопросы, пожелания, либо в Telegram, либо на AsusPlus. Ну, лучше нам в Telegram. Все учтем. Для будущих метапов какие-то вопросы, если нужно будет разобрать, разберем отдельно. Всем большое спасибо. До свидания.
Одну минутку. Nick, I'm going to say it in English. Yes, if you want to find out more about services and prices from AsusPlus, by all means, reach out to them directly. And I'm sure they will facilitate it. Or you could reach out to us with any questions. We could
Sean,
help you
can
with
you,
yeah.
I will share our email. Can we share our emails in the chat, yeah, now?
You could share emails in the chat.
No, I will send you the presentation where our emails is on the presentation. You can share it to everybody which attended.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you very much. Спасибо всем.
Thank you so much.
Хорошего дня.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
До свидания. До свидания.